Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is day 5 for .NET 0 to Hero series, and in previous videos we have discussed about the IL code, CLS, CTS, and then class, static keywords. Um, Also we created the Hello YouTube program and data types. And also we have went through the basic functionality of Visual Studio. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the typecasting. Apart from that, there are few interview questions which is generally getting asked from typecasting. We are going to cover that as well, and we are going to cover is and as operators, and also we are going to cover uh, where keyword and dynamic keyword and what is the difference between them. This is also a very common and famous interview question. So let's start. So this is a program we developed in previous video, and we are going to continue on same program for today's typecasting. Okay, so now as I mentioned, there are two type of casting, right? Implicit and explicit. So if I will say implicit and then explicit typecasting. So implicit, as it is clear with the name itself, right? So without any extra efforts, our compiler will cast from one type to another type. So what is okay, let's discuss what is a typecasting. So we have discussed about the data types, right? And we have discussed about the variables which we need to hold some data and what kind of data a variable can hold, that should be defined by data types, right? So if we want to convert one data type to another data type, so that time we need typecasting, right? Because for example, we are having a data of a string, and under the string we are having suppose number 12, and if I want to convert that number to integer, then we need some mechanism to convert, to cast that string to integer. So that is known as a typecasting. So there are two types of casting, implicit and explicit. So it is, as it is clear with the name, implicitly means we don't need to put any extra efforts. Our compiler will understand and cast from one type to another type. And explicit means we need to keep some efforts. We need to make some modification to make to cast one type to another type. So implicit, when it is possible, like when we are going from low level to high level, on that time we can use implicit typecasting. For example, integer to double is a low level to high level. So if I am having a integer and then I need to give name, right? So maybe I will say I equals to 12, and then I will say double D equals to I. So we can see that I am able to cast integer I to double D, and let me print console dot write line D. And also if I want to change the check the type of the variable, then there is a method called getType which we can use to know the which type of variable it is. So let me add plus here, so it will combine D plus other variables, and then I will say maybe D dot get type, and let's change this to string. What I'm doing is, I will tell you later, it is also a kind of casting. And let me add one pipe symbol to maybe differentiate between these two. So what we did is we declared the integer I equals to 12. Then we are saying we declared double D and we assign integer I directly to double D. And here we are printing uh, what is the you know type of D and what is the value of D. So let me run it. So we can see that 12 and type is system.double. But as I mentioned, from low level to high level, we can do the implicit typecasting. But from high level, in that case, double to integer. Then is it possible implicit typecasting? Let's try and see is it possible or not. So what I will do is maybe I will say I equals to D. So we can see it is giving the compile time exception, and we can see the error like cannot implicitly convert type double to int and explicit conversion exist. So we discuss about implicit and explicit typecasting, right? So here we need to convert it explicitly, and there are multiple ways to cast this integer to double and from this double to integer. But now this time we will do like we will go with the one way. We can add the suffix of data type before this variable and it will cast that variable. It will tell like, hey, it is a type of integer and it will cast, uh, you know, that value. So I will say int here, and now we can see we are not getting any exceptions. And also let's change this d equals to 123.45. So after decimal also I added few values, and here if you will observe, our compiler is not implicitly able to cast this double to integer because there is a possibility of data loss, right? Because how compiler will know like if it is having a decimal, so how compiler will know which how to cast this, right? So at that time we need to explicitly cast it. So we have added this integer suffix before the variable and it will cast our double to integer. And similar to this statement, let me add this for integer I also. And now let's run it. So here we can see that 123.45 is the value and it is a type of double, but when it casts to integer, we can see it become a 123 and type is system.in32. And this one, when we use double, it was using the implicit typecasting, but here we use explicit typecasting. There's a other thing which I mention is the typecasting methods. So instead of adding this suffix and casting it, there are few existing typecasting methods which we can use to cast the value from one type to another type. For example, instead of this, I can use the method, let's say convert dot to in 32. In 32 is a integer. So I am saying let's convert this to integer, and under the parenthesis under this bracket I need to pass the value. So I'm passing this double here, and all here also we can see we are not getting any exceptions. And if I will run the my program again, it will run without any issue. Now also suppose if I am getting anything from string test equals to and I want to convert this test also to integer. So one way we saw like we added the suffix of data type before the variable. Another way we saw is like we use convert.toInt32 method and under the parenthesis we pass this parameter d under it and it cast that double value to integer. Now I'm telling you another way. So if I want to maybe cast it to integer and if I will add directly it will give the compile time exception and it will say like cannot implicitly convert type string to integer. So this time instead of convert.toInt32 or adding a integer suffix, what I will do is I will add a method int and under that we are having a method like pass. So this will also convert your you know value to integer and I can print both the type also here. So maybe I will say test and here it is II. So here we can see that it is 12. This time it is a type of string and then we later we converted that string to type int32 which is integer with the help of int.trypass method. Now suppose we discuss about the object also in previous video, right? So object as we discussed it can hold any type of data. So I will say object t equals to maybe tapan and then I will say string name equals to d. So it is saying sorry, we cannot give the name d here. Let's say obj name equals to the point name equals to so here we can see like cannot implicitly convert type object to string and explicit conversion is needed, right? So it is not able to cast this obj name to string and here we are here also we are having the same way like I can use convert dot to string. This is a one way convert dot to string to cast this object to type of string and then let me add two more values here. Here I will say obj name name and name dot get type. Now let's run this. So here we can see that as it is a type of object, right? So it is saying object is able to identify at runtime what type it is. So it is saying like system.string and here we can see the type of tapan as a system.string. And also there's another way to cast to string. So here we have converted using Convert.toString, but instead of this we have already used this another way, which is this dot to string. So here if you will see, this D is a type of double, but we are able to cast this double to string with the help of dot to string method. Similar to that, this I is an integer and we are able to cast it this I to string method, right? And here if you will see uh, object, we are able to cast it to string method, to string with the to string method. Now there is a one very common interview question which says like, what is the difference between dot to string method and convert dot to string method? So let's see this in practical. What is the difference? So what will happen if my object contains null value? Let me add null here. Let's save this and let's run it. Now let me, even this is the answer, but for now let me comment this line. So here we can see that we did not receive any exceptions and it printed as an empty string. And we can see type is system.string, right? So when we use convert dot to string and when we pass the null, we are able to successfully cast it to a string. But similar to that, maybe if I will add dot to string and if I will run this, we can say it is giving exceptions because with dot to string method we cannot cast null, but when we are using convert dot to string method we can cast null values as well. So this is your answer for your question. What is the difference between convert dot to string and dot to string method? Now there are two more type, which is where and dynamic, and that is also very common interview question as well. So here if you will see, we have defining the values like integer, double, etc., right? But with the help of where and dynamic keyword, we don't need to define these values. It can be identified automatically. So for example, if I will say where, and now let me change this to avoid any exceptions. Where test where equals to, this is a test for where keyword. And if you will mouse over, so we can see that it cast, compiler is able to cast it to type of a string. We can see local variable string test where. And if I will change this, maybe I will say test where equals to 12, we can see similar behavior, like cannot implicitly convert type into a string. So this is a case of where. But as I mentioned, we can use dynamic also for similar behavior. So maybe I will say dynamic and I will say this is a test of dynamic, and then I will say dynamic test equals to 12. If you will mouse over, you don't see any intelligence saying what kind of data it is. And even compiler is also not giving any exceptions, and it is we are able to change the type also. Now it is a type of a string. Now we are able to change it to type of integer, and maybe now let's print console dot write line dynamic test, and let's copy this again and paste it. And now let's run this. So we can see even it is able to print both this test of dynamic and 12 as well. So now we know when we are using a where keyword, it will take the value. It is a static typely value and it takes the value at compile time. So we if we have already verified, like when we declare the where keyword and we assign its value, and when we mouse over we can see it is a type of a string. So at compile time only our compiler knows what data type it is. But when we are using dynamic, we don't see any intelligence, we don't see what type of data it is, and it is known at the runtime. And it is always a good practice to avoid dynamic because in programming it is good to know the error at early stage, right? Because if we know the error at compiler, we can fix it quickly. But if you have runtime exceptions when your program is executing somewhere and then you found the exceptions, then it will be a big issue, right? So whenever it is possible, we should avoid to use dynamic keyword. And what could be the issue? Let me show you. For example, now we have declared dynamic test as a string, and here if I will say dynamic test dot, because if you will see this name, right? So this name is having name dot length. So it is returning the length of the string actually, right? So similar way, if I will use this length here, and let me run this. So we can see it is printed length is at 23 and we did not receive any exceptions. But in integer, if you will see our integer I, if I will say I dot length, we don't have this length property in integer type. But as I mentioned, dynamic will throw the exception at runtime. If I will add dot length here, and if I will build my project, so I came here and rebuild it. So you can see rebuild is succeed and I did not receive any exceptions. But when I will run this program, at runtime it will throw the exception. It is saying like integer does not contain definition for length. So it is very risky when we are using dynamic. So be careful when we are using dynamic keyword. And last thing which I mentioned we are going to discuss today is and as keyword. So now Let me comment this. So as keyword is also we can use for casting. For example, here we are getting obj name as a reward, and if I want to change this object to string, instead of this s dot to string, maybe I can say like s string. Okay, and now if I will try to print this name, I think name we are already printing below. Yeah, here we are printing the name. So now let me run our program. So we can see our name is printed successfully, and we use this time instead of dot to string, convert dot to string, we use as keyword. So as is used for typecasting. You can cast one type to another type. And similar to that, we are having the is keyword. So we have discussed about as keyword. Similar to that, we are having is keyword. So is keyword is generally it returns the Boolean type, and we can check if type of the data. For example, I am getting some data and I want to know if it is a type of string or not. That time I can use is keyword. So for example, if I will say console dot write line and test where if I will say is string, and similar to that, let me copy and paste it again. And if I will say it as a integer, and if I will run this, let's see the output. So here I am getting true and false. So it is saying, yeah, this test where is a type of a string. Yes, it is true. But if I am saying test where is type of integer, it is saying no, it is not integer. It is a string. So it is giving false value. So now if someone is asking what is the difference between is and s keyword, so you can say is to check the type of the string, whether it is the type or not, and it will return the Boolean value true or false. And as keyword is we can use to cast the value from one data type to another data type, and this is also one of the interview question. So I think we have covered all the topics. We have discussed about dynamic keyword, we have discussed about where, we have discussed about is and is operator, boxing and unboxing we have discussed already in our previous video, convert dot to string, and we have discussed similar to that, we have discussed convert dot to int32, and we also have discussed about this methods, and we have discussed about explicit and implicit typecasting. So yeah, we have covered all this. So that's all for this video. If you like this video, please don't forget to add your comments. And if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to add that as well on your comment. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.